I know it's probably a little dumb for me to have such a big problem with the third Jumanji film in the franchise, but there's just so much wrong at play here and I have to point it out. The movie does a good job at stealing the setup of character motives and arcs established in the last film, but then forgets to execute all of them properly. Maybe one of the reasons why I don't like this movie very much is because I thought the trailer was amazing, one of the best trailers of 2019 if you ask me. It was able to let me, an audience member who hadn't seen Welcome to the Jungle yet, understand what the sequel, Jumanji the Next Level, plot and characters were about. Not only that, the set pieces shown in the trailer with the ostriches or the baboons looked fun and exciting, and the music just seemed to match the tone of the world that they were trying to build. So if you can't tell, I enjoyed the trailer, enough to make me watch Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, a movie I had been avoiding since its release, thinking it would be just a heartless cash grab, but I was more than wrong about Welcome to the Jungle. The movie gave me this 80s feel with how the kids are written. They might be stereotypes, but they're still full-blown characters for the most part, and the movie was fun, not just funny, but entertaining too. Maybe my unexpected joy I got from watching Welcome to the Jungle played another part in my dislikeness of the sequel, but I felt like the writers took the same character arcs from Welcome to the Jungle and reused them in the next level, but all in worse ways. Characters like Spencer go through the same arc as last time, and even though they set it up pretty well as why he would have to go through this arc again, they decided to drop the ball on it near the end.
You still talking to your friends?
It's complicated.
Many a tear has to fall,
When we first got together,
but it's all
we were different people.
in the game. All in the wonderful game.
Spencer and Fridge's dynamic from the previous film is just given to Eddie and Milo in the sequel, having them bicker at each other to the point of fighting, just like Spencer and Fridge, and they don't even try to change it up from the first one. They could have had Eddie lose the fight by having him accidentally killing himself, which he is really good at, but no.
Alright then. Well, I guess that's settled.
They even make sure to do what all sequels do when they have the love interest to get together at the end of the first film. Break them up so they have to go through all the same emotions and eventually end up right back together. Maybe the only element they did better was the bad guy, and even then he is still bland and forgettable, but they haven't had a good villain since the original Robin Williams anyways. All these mediocre elements mixed together gives you Jumanji, the next level. The next level fails at world building due to them relying on a crutch, a cheap plot point that just explains everything away. At the end of Jumanji Welcome to the Jungle, the teenage gang decides to destroy the game after they get back to the real world and their actual bodies, leaving the game to be broken and magically do whatever the writers want it to do. A new world and level entirely for the game to play, new characters to play as well as abilities and weaknesses to said characters, new NPC and in-game dialogue, new animals, new everything. And how do they explain this? The game is broken. Yep, that is all you're getting from this movie, and that's the answer for every question you ask. Why is there 7 people in a video game in total when the original movie clearly only showed 5 playable character slots? Because the game is broken. Why is there a new objective to complete and terrain to explore? Broken game. Why is there a magical river that takes away all pleasing character arcs? Haven't you been listening? The game is broken. It's such a dumb crutch that boggles your mind the more you think about it. If you've ever seen the original Jumanji from the 90s, you would know it's a board game. Like Life or Monopoly, you go around it, land on spaces, pick up cards, and roll the dice till you make it to the end. So once you play the game, you know what the game is and what to expect. It's not like every time somebody played the board game, more pieces were added and the landing spots changed, with the board shifting into another design. One of the biggest issues people have with Welcome to the Jungle was wondering how this board game transformed itself into a video game, which I was okay with for the most part. Because 1, I assume the board game manifests itself into a version that could show the player what it's like to go to the jungle instead of the jungle coming to them. And 2, the movie was actually written with some type of competency, and I could stretch my suspension of disbelief for a film like that, unlike the next level. I don't think it would have even been that bad too if they just used the game being broken to explain the new world the characters found themselves in. They end up using the broken game as an excuse for everything. Not even going full out with the concept too, not having pieces of the environment missing, or characters not looking or sounding right, or just full on glitches with characters not being able to walk or being stuck because the hardware of the game is still busted. It just seems like a wasted opportunity for some new and weird visuals. I have to give credit where credit is due at least, and say this movie set up logical character arcs and dynamics that fleshed out the characters as a whole. Oh wait, no, that was Welcome to the Jungle that developed everything I'm talking about. I'm going to start with Spencer and his arc because it's the biggest culprit of what I'm going to be discussing here. We find out that Spencer went back for the game after the events of the first film and was just keeping it just in case. And after a year of being in college and being away from his friends and girlfriend, he feels lonely and down on his luck. The movie actually shows Spencer being upset of where his life is compared to his friends and how he's still kind of the same person as he was at the start of Welcome to the Jungle. Which makes sense, think about it. Spencer was an anxious, unconfident kid who, yes, was smart, was still held back by his own insecurities and fears. And how did he deal with that in the first film? Well, by being Dr. Smoldering Bravestone, an avatar who was programmed not to be able to feel fear or anxiety. So yes, throughout the first film, he was able to learn what he could be like if he just believed in himself a little more, but he learned that while being another person and not himself. So when he gets back to the real world and his real emotions come back to him, he can't deal with it and goes back to the game as a way of coping, like somebody would go with drugs or alcohol, just so he could be Bravestone once again and make himself feel happy. It's actually a really good setup for his character, and these flaws that Spencer can't face himself is the reason why the game gets trapped in the game again, because while trying to fix the game, Spencer gets trapped in it, and the rest of the group knows he can't beat it himself, so they jump in and save Spencer. The only thing is that this time, Spencer didn't get to choose his character, so instead of being Bravestone when he spawns into the game, Spencer is a character named Min, who is a thief avatar, and a character who can feel all the same fear and anxiety that Spencer could feel in the real world. At first I thought this was stupid, the game being busted allowed for a whole new avatar of abilities and weaknesses to be created, but then I thought, at least with this new character, Spencer can't hide who he is behind a video game, and will have to deal with his issues like a real person, but no, that's not the case at all. They spend about 2 different moments showing Spencer is still the nervous kid he is in Min's avatar before wasting this opportunity to develop him.
I'm sorry, I did it. It was my fault. I don't know what I was. Oy vey. It's like I'm hyperventilating. Does anyone have like a eucalyptus inhaler or a brown paper bag? Give me your hand! What? Trust me!
And they ruin this growth by throwing Spencer and the rest of the game to the Jumanji pit water, which magically can switch your soul into another avatar like you're playing a Lego game, because instead of having our characters deal with obstacles surrounding their avatars and learning to work together as a team so they can use their weaknesses as strengths, they just switch back to their avatars from last film, taking away any satisfying character arcs and interesting climaxes. You can't just show and tell the audience that the characters don't work in these avatars and just cheaply switch them because it works better for your favor now at this point in the story. This magical Jumanji pit water was the last straw in the movie for me too. It's one of the laziest things I've ever seen written into a film. Spencer goes from having to actually deal with his fears and anxieties, jumping right back into the body of Dr. Bravestone, where he can't feel those emotions to begin with. It destroyed everything they set up throughout the movie. How is he supposed to come to terms with his life when he keeps trying to be another person? Once Spencer is back in Bravestone's avatar, the speech that is given to motivate the team before the climax is given to Alex, not Spencer, which just seems so out of place after everything has happened. Even after the game has defeated the bad guy and they're back in the real world, it doesn't seem like he has learned anything, and Spencer will be back in the same spot he was a year from now. Spencer isn't the only character that feels like this. They set up Eddie's character pretty well too. Eddie is an older man who won't come to terms with his age or mortality, while staying resentful to the world due to the past events with his friend Milo. And while Milo's at Eddie's trying to reconcile, they both are accidentally sucked into the video game, with Eddie being Bravestone and Milo being Finbar Mouse, leaving them to have the exact same dynamic that Spencer and Fridge had in Welcome to the Jungle, but of course it's done worse. And that's not the biggest flaw about Eddie. The biggest flaw about him is that he's a selfish and angry Bravestone that gets the gang killed multiple times. Eddie gets everybody, including himself, killed by Switchblade, a smaller side enemy in the game.
In life like right now where you stand.
And then he straight up kills Milo in a fight scene between the two, similar to the previous film.
No!
Eddie even almost gets Spencer killed during the Bad Boom fight, but luckily Martha was there to save him. Eddie is just not a good Bravestone because he keeps being selfish, and the movie never gives him the chance to redeem himself because they just tell him he's a bad Bravestone before making him go in the Jumanji pit like the rest of them to switch their characters so they can be who they want to be.
You are gonna beat up the wrong guy. You're not a good Bravestone.
You're too stubborn and pissed off and you keep getting us killed.
What the hell are you talking about? And Milo, and I say this with all due respect, sir, is not a good person to be the zoologist.
And shockingly enough, after Eddie switches into Maine, the character Spencer was playing as, he no longer has anything to do in the movie. Sure, he gets to go on Milo's back and put the jewel back where it belongs, but literally anybody could have done that, which just makes it feel like an empty redemption. It's a shame this movie failed on character building as bad as it did, because this movie isn't the worst, especially to a mass audience. I can see why they wouldn't see a problem with this movie. The performances are good with talented actors across the board, even great performances during the Jack Black scenes, and the movie can be pretty funny at times, like when Fridge finally gets to use Finbar's abilities after Milo used them terribly all throughout the movie.
Fridge, do you have any ice climbing equipment in your backpack?
You need something like this?
Just like that.
See? That's why I'm the backpack guy. That's why.
Yeah, you're great at that.
Yeah, I know.
But overall, this film is just lazy when you start to think about the plot and characters. Just think about the desert scene with the ostriches. It took all 4 of them to escape that area, and really they only escaped because of Eddie and Bravestone's avatar was fearless enough to drive the dune buggy off a cliff. Now, how did Spencer and Mean's avatar beat that section without dying 3 times in a row? If Fridge and Martha would have been too scared to do that stunt that Eddie pulled off, how did Spencer? Never mind that though, we'll just have him meet in the town where they only see him lose his first life. Just doesn't make sense. This film has a bad case of sequelitis, rehashing everything from plot to character arcs and even fight scenes, just done in a much worse way. I'm just hoping that the 3rd installment for this reboot franchise isn't as bland as frustrating as the next level, since at the end of this movie, when the characters return to the real world, a person working on Spencer's house touches the game, bringing the game to life, and unleashing its content to the real world, just like the original movie in 1995. Though I'm more than certain that Spencer will be learning the same thing he learned in Welcome to the Jungle and the next level, to be more secure in himself so he can be happy. At least this time he'll actually have to learn the lesson, since he won't have an avatar to hide behind. I want to recommend this film just on the basis of how much I like Welcome to the Jungle, but I just can't. This film is a lazy idea at best and a wasted concept at worst.